All right, so we are in chapter number 3, and the whole goal of this lecture is to know more about techniques to load data from files, right? So, whenever you want to do some analysis or apply data science algorithms, you will first need to have the data cleaned up. So that means that the output of your algorithm will only be as good as your input. In your day-to-day job, data will never be clean enough for you. So you will need to apply lots of manipulations before you even start making sense of it or even start applying some algorithms to it. So how can you actually do this? You must have seen people do things like copy pasted in Excel or SQL Server and then do some manipulation around it. Now all that is really good, but there should definitely be a quicker and smarter way for you to do data manipulation. Moreover, almost every time you will be faced with this dilemma of data coming from various sources like SQL Server. Then half of the data would be in CSV, some of them would be in tab separated files, some of them would be through a web service, which is a JSON format. Some of them will be in Hadoop and so on and so forth, right? And this is where Pandas makes it super easy, super fast. Now, let me remind you that the goal of this lecture is not to work through each and every data source. Rather, I want to show you a few of them. You can use the very same concept for the data source that you usually work with. Now, extensive documentations are available in the Pandas website, and if you just even Google things, you'll be able to get the connection configurations that you need. But at the max, you will just need some sort of an ODBC driver supported by your upstream data and go ahead and kind of connect with it. All right, so this is what we talked about, right? So irrespective of what source, we should be able to get in the data and do some manipulations. All right, so let's go ahead and start writing some code, right? So you will see certain things firsthand. So let us start with something very simple. Let's read from a tab separated file into a table, and let's see how we can do that. Now again, I'm just googling and downloading one of them, but by all means, if you have a tab separated file, feel free to go for it, right? So let's see if we can find something. So tab separated, let's say sample data. Let me see if I can find something. Okay, and then let's see if this has anything. Tab separated. Okay, tab separated values. And yeah, this is the data. It looks like some employee information here. So let's go ahead and download that. And what I'm going to do is I am going to just download this, and let me just remove all the spaces so that we don't encounter issues. All right, so we have downloaded that. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to open a blank IPython notebook and write some code. Right, so if you have watched my module number 1, you will know what I'm talking about. What is a Jupyter notebook, how to install a Jupyter notebook, and if you're just getting started, I would recommend you first watch module number 1 so that you have all these things set up and you can kind of start writing code, right? So initially what we are going to do is let's go ahead and say I want to read from a TSV, tab separated value file, and then just do some data manipulation, or just read it and display it is also fine. So first and foremost, what I need to do is I need to go ahead and import pandas. So I'm going to import pandas as PD, and then let me press Control and enter, and that will actually execute that line of code. Now all these shortcuts I have explained it in module number 1. So now if I press the button B, it will kind of open a new cell for me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say employee. I'll just store this in employee. I'll just say pd dot read table, and I need to pass in the path, right? So I will go ahead and pass the path where I stored these files, and if I just start typing, I should get this. Okay. All right, so I have stored everything in the employee. Now if I just do employee dot head, I should be able to see a few rows. So you see that it's that simple, right? And all we did was we kind of downloaded a file, and then now we are on the screen reading the information from the file. We'll definitely look at how to go ahead and manipulate this, how to add columns, how to remove columns and stuff like that, right? So actually, let me go ahead and show you one more thing, right? So let me go ahead and press B, and then let's try pipe delimited, right? So pipe delimited would be something like this, right? So you'll have, say, name, and then separated by pipe, then age, then separated by this, then salaries, things like that. So all your columns would be separated by this particular symbol, the pipe symbol. Okay, it's just a different format of file. And let's go ahead and download some sample data and see if we can get. Now again, at the time of recording these courses, these links were active, and again, if you're watching this after a few months where these links are no longer active, by all means go ahead and just download some other CSV or a TSV file. The concept remains the same, right? So let me go ahead and see pipe delimited. Let's see, sample data, if I can find something. Okay, let's see if something makes sense. Let's see. Okay, let's try this. Use semicolons, use pipes. Okay, let's go ahead and actually look at this data. Okay, so this is what we need. Now the good thing over here is I'm not even going to download and store this file. I'll just take this URL, copy it, and then try writing some code to kind of read that, right? So what I'll do is pd.read table, and then just pass in this value. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just store this in something like reads, right? And then I'll do a reads.head. So it will actually download that data and then show you the first few rows of the data. All right, so we see some data, but it's kind of very strange here, right? So the data is actually, it looks like only one column, right? But we need it to be displayed in a nice table-like format. And how do we do that? And it's actually very simple. This is where we use the separator, and we say look for column separated by this pipe. Okay, now if I press Control Enter, you see that it's just nicely formatted, right? So this is pretty interesting, right? So you saw how to kind of read data from different files. Definitely you'll have to play around a little bit with what you need to pass depending upon what type of separators it is using, and accordingly you can kind of play around with it. All right, so we learned about actually loading two data files, and what we will do is we'll try out some more advanced concepts. In the meantime, if you would like, try with some other format like a JSON format, and if you are able to crack that, absolutely feel free to post your solutions to the Q&A section. We'll also look at some column manipulation, like how to choose certain columns, how to drop certain columns, add certain columns and stuff. But before we go into that, definitely give it a try and see if you're able to figure that out, because we'll definitely be discussing that in the next lecture. And if you find a good solution, absolutely feel free to post it in the Q&A section. Now, just as a stretch assignment, the same concept you can actually use to get data from a SQL Server box. So go ahead and actually look out for some documentation where you can establish a connection to a database. We just established a connection to the web right now, and as well as a file which is stored internally, and see if we can get in some data and just display a few rows. So I hope you like that, and then we look at some more advanced concepts in the coming lectures. Thank you.